and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the City of Westfield Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation. Specific information can be found on the City of Westfield website at www.cityofwestfield.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so by tuning into channel 15 or channel 12, or online at westfieldtv.org, or online at youtube.com/Westfield Community Programming Channel. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we're unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the city's website an audio recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Note the following, we will follow the following format. Applicants and consultants present projects to the commission. The commission asks questions. The commission will then open discussion up for public comments on public hearings and public meetings. Roll call. Okay, Jim.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Tom.
Yes, I'm also
Carl.
here.
Okay, Carl.
Yes.
Cliff.
Yes.
Okay, and Bob. I think Bob's here, right? Okay. Well, I can see him there. Yeah, Alex is not attending this evening. Item 2, open participation. We have some emergency certificates. First one is a request from Toccoa Country Club involving DPW from the City of Westfield to help them find the break in the water pipe at the golf course. Meredith, an update.
Yeah, I was contacted. I mean, we did a site visit. We mentioned this to the commission last time. Tom and I were able to do a site visit a couple weeks ago, and they were able to get the DPW to work with them to find the water main break and access it via Route 20. Now I forget which hole it's near, but they were going to use swamp mats and access that area because it's a little hillside seep there, and they're going to use swamp mats and crawl the machinery down, find the break, isolate that area, and they were going to install the appropriate erosion controls, use silt sacks if they had to discharge any turbid water to isolate the work area. And basically they're just going to isolate the work area and repair the pipe. I think install maybe couplings on either side and repair it that way. And yeah, it had to be done either yesterday or today. So we would need the commission to ratify the emergency certification with a few conditions.
So let's have a motion to ratify the emergency certification for Toccoa Country Club.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
I will second.
Okay. Want to include the conditions, Meredith?
Yep, so swamp mats will be utilized to cross the hillside seep. Sedimentation controls will be placed prior to construction. Any pumping of turbid water will be treated prior to discharging. And erosion controls will be installed after the work is complete to stabilize the slope. And the slope will also be revegetated with native seed mix and soils.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
How
Yes.
will they treat the water, Meredith? If it is turbid, will they have some kind of? Are you suggesting they have something on site that will, or just?
Yeah, absolutely. Nope, they have to. They're either going to discharge into an existing storm drain, which has treatment in it already, to treat road runoff, or they're going to use. I called it a silt sack. That's not the correct word. It's like these big bags that you pump water into, and then the silt stays in the bag and the water slowly leaks out. I know somebody else might remember what those are called.
Yeah, they look like giant rubber pillows. And
Yes,
they allow
exactly.
the water to weep. You're correct. Yep.
Yep, and it weeps out slowly so that turbid water isn't flying all over the place.
Originally, and I should say originally, this was 3 weeks ago, they were hoping to do everything by hand. Are they now at the stage where they're bringing machinery in?
Yes, I was told they need to access the site with machinery.
Sorry to hear that. That means it's a bigger problem than they first thought.
Yeah, yep.
Okay,
Any
no,
further Go ahead, Tom.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say I'm fine with the emergency order. Thank you for allowing me to ask a couple of questions.
Sure. Okay.
And one quick question, if I may.
Sure.
So we stated that the erosion control should be installed after the work is complete. Should it be before the work is complete or during the work, or I'm a little confused by that.
They need to be installed before work. The erosion controls can also be like the swamp mats, sort of just a general term to ensure that they're minimizing impacts to access the site. And then after they get in there and do the work and they put everything back, it's going to be open soil, be as vegetated as it is now. So they need to install new erosion controls after. Actually, there's a bit of a slope where they have to come down, so they're gonna install them perpendicular to the slope so that they act like check dams, to kind of stabilize as it gets revegetated. So there's like multiple stages of erosion controls.
Yeah, as long as they understand that, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, they do. We had a long talk.
Okay. All right. Then all in favor. Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Jim?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
And I'll be in favor as well. Thank you. Next one, emergency certification, 215 Belanger Road. Again, this was an RDA that we approved on Hamden Pond for removing an old cesspool or demolishing an old cesspool, putting in a new septic system. But I guess the contractor has some concerns about the retaining wall. So Meredith, why don't you explain that one as well?
Yeah, so there's a retaining wall. I don't think anyone else made it out there, but there's a few retaining walls pretty close to the pond. They're tiered, and the old cesspool is located fairly close, I'd say within 20 feet of those. So in order to complete the septic repair and get the new septic online, the old cesspool has to be drained and crushed. And the contractor is concerned that when he crushes it with an excavator, it's going to be so much pressure that the walls of the retaining wall are going to be bowed out and potentially cause a slide into the pond. Yeah, and the health department concurred that this was necessary. And the only way they can get the new septic online is you have to completely disengage the old one. So I looked at it and I felt like it was a legitimate concern, and they already have the work scheduled. And it's an existing wall, and they're going to be putting in a more stable, they said Jersey barriers. It's not Jersey barriers. They're like already formed concrete blocks.
Precast.
Yeah, what do you call them, Bob? They're
Precast box.
precast blocks. So I think it's a good idea to do this because, I mean, we could have them file an RDA, but I think ultimately we would let them do the work because potentially the whole slope could go into the pond, and we don't want that. So, so I was bringing it to the commission as an emergency so they can do it and get the cesspool, which is leaking, isn't functional. That's why they did the upgrade into, I think it's better for the environment to have the old cesspool decommissioned. So and I was just notified of this, so that's why it wasn't on the agenda originally.
I agree that it qualifies as an emergency situation. I'm ready to make the motion whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion? Well, I was out there on the site visit too, and I think having a new retaining wall is going to be a good improvement on the property. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
so we're essentially modifying the existing RDA, is that it? Or we're adding an emergency cert to the RDA?
right. It's a separate decision. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they didn't realize that they were going to have to do this to decommission the cesspool. And I asked DEP, but you can't modify an RDA. Once an RDA is issued or a determination is issued, it can't be extended and it can't be modified, which I thought that would be the appropriate route, but this
Yeah.
is,
I didn't know that either, so now we know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all set.
All right. So all in favor of the emergency certification? Bob?
Yes.
Well, actually, I'll make that motion. I'll make
Okay,
a
go.
motion that we issue an emergency certification, 215 Belanger Road. It's an emergency because we're trying to install a new septic system. I made that rather long and lengthy, but let's issue an emergency order.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right. I'd like to add the conditions that are if you're looking at our copy of the agenda, the last 3 lines.
Absolutely. With that, we will add the conditions as recommended by our administrator.
All right. So erosion controls will be installed prior to work. Commission will be notified of the work start date and work start end date. Any disturbed soils will be revegetated after construction. No trees are allowed to be removed. Okay.
So that will be my amended motion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So all in favor? Bob?
Well, we'll need a second, Mr. Chair.
Who
I'll
made
second
the?
that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bob?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep, yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Tom?
I'll vote yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. The next one is a emergency certification request that's not listed here. But it's one that just came to our attention. It's on Granville Road. Meredith?
yeah, it just came to my attention today. And it's a septic repair on a home at 1102 Granville Road. They have the health department approved the plan, and it just came to my attention because it's within the 100-foot buffer zone. It's an existing home and septic, but it needs to be upgraded. So it's outside the 50-foot buffer zone, and it's an emergency because I don't know if their septic is, I don't know if they're using it or what's going on, but I
You
think
said-
it's, and actually it's, we could also have them file an RDA, but again, the system is going to be an improvement because right now it's according to the old code, and the new code brings septic systems up higher out of the groundwater. So now this is going to become a raised system. I don't know if you guys want to do an emergency for this one too.
They have an approved plan?
They have an approved plan. Yep.
Okay. Do a motion for this emergency certification.
Sure, I'll make the motion that we grant an emergency certification for this septic upgrade.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Bob,
Aye.
Jim,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll vote yes as well. Okay. Item 3, public hearings, NOIs. The Toccoa Country Club continued from January 12th. Applicant requests a continuance to the meeting on June 8th. The motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we continue this until June 8th at 6:30 PM.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Bob,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Thank you.
David,
Item B.
David, I'm not sure if Meredith still needs help with this one, but there was one item before number 3, a
we're
potential
not-
question.
We're not dealing with that tonight.
Okay, I noticed it on the agenda, so I
did
brought it
too,
up.
but yeah,
Yeah, sorry. We figured that one out. That's going to be coming before us later. Thanks.
okay. So item B, Ponders Hollow Road, City of Westfield, Flood Commission. So in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, a public hearing will be held on May 25th, 2021 by virtual meeting only. This hearing is for a notice of intent submitted by City of Westfield Flood Commission for the clearing of trees and vegetation along the Little River Levee. Okay. Do we have a proponent for this particular item?
Yes. Alge Gear,
Yes.
Chair of the Westfield Flood Control Commission. I
Okay.
have
Jack Leary from the Flood Control Commission, but I think we have our engineer from Ty and Bond, Steve Stroka, ahead of us.
Okay, so who would like to address the commission?
I believe Jean Christie. Are you there?
Yes, I
Maybe
see
maybe
her.
Melissa would. I see Melissa.
Okay.
Oh, you're muted.
Melissa, you're muted.
Not well.
Is this better?
Yes.
Much better.
Okay, excellent. So, as I was noting, there are several Ty and Bond representatives here for different projects this evening, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the notice of intent for the Westfield Flood Control Commission's Little River Levee vegetation management and debris removal activities. So, as the commission may be aware, is it all right if I share my screen?
Well, actually, Melissa, we probably invited you in early. We're discussing Ponders Hollow Road. Do you have
Yes.
anything to do? Oh, this
Yes, there
same.
are 2 levee projects before the commission this evening, or 2 projects
okay.
associated with
Right.
flood control structures or activities near them. So this is the Little River Levee vegetation management off of Ponders Hollow Road.
All right, go ahead and share your screen.
Thank you.
Peter can take care of that for you.
Yep, as soon as I'm allowed. Thank you. Here we go. So can you all see this now?
Yes.
Great. So I just figured I'd start with the site locus so we can orient ourselves.
Excuse me, Melissa, could you make that larger, please?
Better?
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
Ah, now we can see it.
Now you can see it. Okay. So this is the Little River. And I think as a point of reference, this is, Big Y, Amelia Park. So we're down Broad Street into Ponders Hollow Road. And this is in yellow is the approximate limits of work associated with these activities atop the flood control structure, the levee, which is an earthen berm. And essentially, the Corps of Engineers, during a routine inspection, determined that there was too much vegetation growth, tree growth on the river side of the levee. And also that there is woody debris accumulated at the outlet end of some culverts that go through the levee to drain from one side, from the protected side to the river side, and that was impairing their function. So the goals of this project are to manage vegetation to the requirements of the Corps and to remove that debris so that the culverts may function properly. I'm going to jump ahead to the ortho photo so that we can see a little better in real life here, or as close to real life as we can get. So again, here's the little river. Bank and mean high water were delineated along the project side. And these two symbols here indicate the outlet ends of those culverts I mentioned, which is where the debris removal will occur. And then the red area is the approximate limits of vegetation clearing on the riverside face of the lake. So that clearing encompasses approximately 9,000 square feet in both BLSF and Riverfront area overlapping. So a single footprint of 9,000 square feet. Vegetation will be cut from within 10 to 15 feet of the toe of the levee up to the top of it. The opposite side of the levee is satisfactorily maintained. So that is the limits of those work. That cut debris will be hauled away from the site. It won't be left on site. And then this area will be routinely maintained twice a year by mowing, as with other parts of the city's system. The work to remove woody debris at that outlet end of the pipes we've estimated will impact about 200 square feet of land underwater. Just to put a number on it, basically the debris will be removed from the river and again hauled off site and properly disposed elsewhere. And then this whole footprint will be rolled into the overall operation and management plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions for the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so to the applicant, so you're going to clear the levee. Are you then going to do anything to the levee? Are you going to vegetate it with native vegetation? Are you going to arm it with riprap, or just let it naturally revegetate, or what?
So the proper maintenance of a levee would be to allow it to have a grassy covering, trees, shrubs, etc. Actually destabilize a levee or dam structure, and this is a levee structure. Army Corps has a requirement of a 15-foot clearing from the toe of the levee out from each side of the levee and the levee itself. And that is to make sure that the levee is stable both in its being an earthen structure. The ground that it resides upon is also part of the structure and design. So the root systems of trees penetrating into the levee structure and under the levee structure do destabilize it, as water can penetrate through pressure into the core materials, and that would cause a sloughing of the levee. So the long-term maintenance plan is that it would be a grassy maintenance. At this time, there's no plan for riprap, but this is a preliminary step in a much larger project to rehabilitate the entire levee structure, not just this small piece. So in order to get a baseline repair that Army Corps requires us to start on, which is another component of this levee and future work, this is just to get a small area cleared so we have A, better access, B, get this small section into compliance, and C, Army Corps will be, the city will be in a better shape to understand what the issues are. We're not looking to remove the roots of some of the large trees in this section. We're just looking to cut down said trees and brush to clear it. The root removal is a much more involved process. It requires Army Corps permission. Obviously, it's wetland issues. There's a lot of permitting involved in that. So this is just a preliminary step, and the plan is just to maintain the surface structure so it would be similar to what you would see on, if any of you have been there, to what you see on, say, the Westfield River Levee, or what everyone knows as the dike, and the small section that we do currently maintain. This is just to expand that maintained area a little bit further in a longer term plan.
Thank you.
You're
Other
welcome.
questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have one.
Sure.
What do you think you're going to use for equipment on this? Is it going to be a minimally impacted? You're going to be you're not going to impact the area too much?
Correct. So we're looking to use our current contractor that we have that does the current mowings and grooming on all of our flood control structures, which is Lubelzik and Son. Ed Lubelzik and his son Joe. We've had conversations at the levee, and they would be using a tracked vehicle with minimal impact on the levee to pull as much of that debris from the outfalls on the riverside. They don't believe they can get all of it, but they're going to get the most concerning section of that out. And they are well aware that causing damage, surface damage and erosion issues on the levee is a paramount issue for us as well as water quality issues. So their impact on the surface of the levee is going to be as minimal as possible. I did speak with Meredith previously about putting up erosion barriers, waffles, I believe they're called, wattles, rather than hay bales. So those, I did talk with the contractor about installing those in that area to minimize any possible disturbance of the surface. But because it's a levee structure, you do not want to disturb the surface because that causes erosion of the levee structure and impacts its stability. So those are also concerns of us from a flood control perspective.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other
Add some
questions?
more? Oh, I don't know if there are other engineering people going to speak first, or this is Jack Leary. I'll come last and sort of wrap things around the issue.
Thank you, Jack.
But
Other
where do I
question?
sit out? The other people?
Just hang tight 1 second, Jack. We'll see if they have other questions. I believe, just so everyone's aware, Jack Leary is, I appointed him as Commissioner 1. This is a project near and dear to his heart. So he's done extensive research on the levee and done a lot of footwork trying to sort through some of the messier details of this levee. There's a lot of problems with this levee that go back to its construction in '55 and inaction by the city to maintain it properly since that time.
Al, this is Tom Sharp. How many trees are you talking about removing?
Okay, so right now we're looking at 7 trees in particular for the immediate, but we would be removing all of the trees over a period of time. And I can't give you a window because it depends strongly on the money that's allowed to us from the mayor and city council. But we need to remove all of the trees from the levee structure itself, as they are multiple reasons to do so for safety reasons. The impact.
Are these trees, Al, are they shading the water? Are they shading the little river? Are they providing?
There is one in particular that kind of overhangs the river, and that's because the river has been eroding away at the levee near the outfalls. And there's about 5 feet of the levee that basically disappeared during the December 25th storm that we had on Christmas. And that's one of the major issues that we're trying to address with this project. And the larger project is repairing the levee before we have a failure of the levee, where it collapses into portion collapses into the river. There's a small tree. It's, I believe, about 4 inches diameter, or 4 inches in width. And it is starting to lean. And if it falls in, it will take a good portion of a protective berm for those outfalls with it. And it'll start a cascade effect, if you will, for erosion on the levee structure into the river. Army Corps has looked at it when they had their inspection last month, and we're waiting for a more detailed inspection report from them. We do have a long-term plan to address the issue, but that's not part of the scope of this one. This is just to get the preliminary work done in that general area so we can start to address this. And removing that tree will take the weight off of that base, so it'll be less likely to fall into the river.
I understand. Thank you, Al.
You're
I
welcome.
have a question. Are you taking out the stumps or leaving the stumps?
At this time, we would be leaving the stumps, as we do not have all the federal permits in place to do so. Army Corps has a whole procedure that they have to go through as well. There's a lot of federal guidelines that we have to abide by, as well as the state. And again, this is an Army Corps of Engineers built levee. So there is a lot of very stringent standards that we are supposed to maintain. And unfortunately, the city hasn't done so, and we are now trying to correct those issues.
All right, thank you.
That is a key point. This is Jack Larry here. A couple of key ideas that I found when I've been on this commission not quite 2 years, and I found it very interesting. It's a disaster area. The key statement that you read in the reports when they do a yearly inspection is that levee is unacceptable and does not, keyword not, function as intended. Now, this levee, a lot of people, it's sort of hid. In fact, I didn't really know much about it until I joined the commission because it's down Ponder's Hollow Road, is pushed back behind a lot of trees and vegetation. But this levee is very important for protecting areas. Now, from documents I received, I should say, recently, the purpose of protecting the area by this levee is places that we consider pretty important. For example, if this levee fails and we have a decent hurricane-sized storm coming, then the post office, the Big Y, South Middle School, the Boys and Girls Club, and our own DPW will be in danger of receiving multiple feet of water and flooded. So, and obviously damage associated with it. Now, I noticed trees. I know I was on a conservation commission. A lot of people want to protect the trees, etc. But trees are not a friend to a levee. Trees are not even allowed, according to Army Corps regulations, on a levee or not within 15 feet of what they call the toe, which is the bottom part of the levee. Why? Well, a lot of reasons, but one that struck me because when I walked the levee, in fact, I walked with Meredith, you see trees falling all over the place, uprooted, big roots sitting upon top of the levee. So in a tropical storm or a hurricane, trees may become uprooted, creating holes in the levee. And in those holes, water goes and causes major erosion. And that's a big problem, is erosion. Now, a lot of people I've talked to recently say, oh, hey, it's not getting a lot of water in it. It's called Little River. Well, that's a misnomer. It's not really little. And in 1955, we found out this problem. The volume and the velocity of the Little River increased rapidly during a hurricane or tropical storm when they put extreme pressure on Cobble Mountain Dam, which protects the Springfield Reservoir. To reduce the pressure, so you know the dam doesn't fail, there's ways of bypassing around it over spill culverts to release the pressure, but they had to release it into the Little River, causing the river to rise tremendously. In 1955, this happened. Who's to say it won't happen again? That dam was under pressure in 1955. I don't think it's been maintained or repaired to the degree that we're doing with our dams. Therefore, it's probably even more of a problem. Now, we've got two culverts, which are the key problem of this whole thing. Culverts normally are not built into a levee. You only build culverts when there's a problem. For example, the culvert in a levee do not enhance the levee stability or prevent the river from flowing into the surrounding area. So why put them there? Well, the problem has to do with storm runoff from the Potter Hollow Road. The storm runoff from Potter Hollow Road flows into a ditch we call the canal, located between the levee and the road. The culverts, there are two of them, transport the storm water into the river. Unfortunately, at this time, you heard about the accumulation of tree material or debris at the outlet of the river. That tree debris, to a large degree, comes from this ditch, which is in terrible shape. Terrible shape. In fact, we haven't owned most of it. We have a problem. A good hunk of the levee is not owned by the city of Westfield. It was built on land back in 1955 without getting a local cooperation agreement or ownership of the land. And that's one of the problems we're facing today. In fact, because we don't have a valid local cooperation agreement to maintain the levee, if that levee has a failure, unlike in the past, federal law requires that LCA or the Army Corps of Engineers cannot expend any money to do repairing. Put it bluntly, we, the city of Westfield, taxpayers, will pay to repair that levee. I think, let's see, anything else that's key? Why a culvert? And the reason for the culvert, I think I started to explain, is most levees don't have culverts. Culverts can become a problem. If not, look at all the money we're expending to try to correct the deterioration of these two corrugated metal pipes. And that 30-inch in diameter pipes, they're good-sized pipes. The pipes exist only to take the runoff from Potter's Hollow Road and bring it from the canal through the lower part of the levee and drop it into the river. Now, again, as I started to say, and I'll review it because there's a key point, the accumulation of tree debris at the outflow with the pipe empties into the river comes almost 90% of it from this ditcher canal. So just to give you the highlight, Meredith and I've seen Meredith twice on this project. Meredith and I did walk the upper parts of the levee, and I believe at another time Meredith walked the lower parts with Al, and she would see holes that created in the levee where trees were uprooted, so she could validate what I'm saying. And again, this levee is in real disrepair. Even though it's important to the city, we don't get the budget money to maintain it. It's a shame. I would suggest that if you want to see what I've said, if you want to walk this whole levee, now the levee is 2,500 feet. Only 550 feet looks like a levee. The rest of it looks like a little path through the woods where it drops off on either side with trees falling all over the place. Meredith, if you disagree with that, I'd love to hear it. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Jack. I guess we have an option as a commission. We can approve this as a limited project, but we need an operations and maintenance plan, which we don't have at the moment. Or we can continue.
Can I speak on that?
Jack,
till we get the plan.
Right.
We don't have one, and that costs money, which we don't have.
Right.
The problem being that if we have a tight budget, in fact, we have the smallest budget probably around. We have no staff to even manage it. We get surprised sometimes with bills that pop out of nowhere. If we don't get this passed in this budget, we don't have the money in next year's budget. We don't think we're going to get much help either from the mayor on that particular area. So right now we hope we have, because there's another question here of another bill coming in, have the money to do this minor step of maintenance. And if you don't approve it and it goes past the budget and the money returns to the general fund, forget it, the whole project died. You know, we spend money with the Army, with the tie and bond to propose the notice of intent, and we're going to have lost that money because we won't be able to do what we got the notice of intent for unless you approve it before this budget period ends, and that's what, 5 weeks away at most.
All right, thank you, Jack. Okay. Meredith,
So
how do we
I
address
guess
this if we don't have a plan?
I don't know if Ty and Bond wants to speak to that. I think I was just looking for an O&M plan. I don't see one, but that's something very simple that Ty or the Flood Commission could put together. I don't want to mess up anyone's budget, but I think, I don't know if the commission wants to also view the site. This seems permissible. The DEP comments, I don't know if Melissa wants to go through those.
Sure, they're right here on my screen. I'll zoom in.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So DEP did issue a file number, 333804. Comment number 1 is kind of doesn't require a response. Comment number 2, yes, the designation of the Little River as a cold water fishery resource is documented and well known. We are not in rare species habitat. However, the work at the river's edge is minimal, and the intent is to do it during a low flow period with as little disturbance as possible. Essentially, just pulling the woody debris away out of the river, away from the ends of the culverts to dispose of it off site. The last comment, the third comment, the notice of intent shall include long-term O&M. In the absence of a formal flood control system O&M plan, the notice of intent references biannual mowing of the maintained areas consistent with the Flood Control Commission's practices for levee maintenance within the city. You know, the hope is that that will suffice at this time. If the commission desires a more involved plan, I think that would be something that the Flood Control Commission would have to discuss internally, if that is something that they could put together or work with other aspects of the city, other departments within the city to develop as well.
And Mr. Chair, if I could speak to that.
Yes.
So again, Al Jaguar, Chair of the Westfield Flood Control Commission. So as Jack stated, we do not have the budget to put that together. Part of the problem with this levee is its historic lack of maintenance, and that's a quote from Army Corps in their last inspection. There was once upon a time an O&M for the levee. I'm going to say it again, the lack of maintenance and historical problems with the Flood Control Commission prior to my being involved and prior to some of the other commissioners being involved, these things were lost to time. Army Corps does not have a O&M to provide to us. And because of the situation that the levee is in, we did not choose to purchase a new O&M because we have to fix these things. As Jack stated, these two outfalls are deteriorated. They do not function as intended. Water currently backflows through them into the protected side of the city. And the repairs are part of a larger scope project that is outside of this. But again, this is the first step into getting that area prepared for a larger project. To put together an O&M at this point is kind of wasteful in expenditure because we really can't do any O&M properly because of the problems with the culverts being deteriorated. The basic plan that we have is our current mowing and grooming and fitting within the Army Corps' guidelines, which I can gladly provide to you, which is very simple: mow, groom, keep the brush, et cetera, et cetera. I could provide that information to you, which is what we base our work on. Plus, we have our mowing and grooming contract coming up for renewal. Actually, tomorrow we're going to be discussing it at our meeting. But it's pretty straightforward. You mow it, you groom it, you make sure trees aren't growing on it. You make sure it's not eroding and falling into the river. And you make sure that the outfalls are properly functioning, which at this time they are not.
Al, does the city have an O&M for the Westfield River levee near the bridge? Because we discussed that in previous meetings.
Yes.
About mowing.
So there is an O&M somewhat that engineering has, which is, I see Mark is not available or any of the other engineering department staff, but one of the problems my commission has had has been that engineering has kind of overseen flood control's work, and not all of that information has been made privy to the flood control over the years. And I've been fighting for the last 8 years to kind of put things where they should be, so we're privy to that information as we should. I believe there is an O&M for that levee. I cannot verify that there is. Engineering would have it. Again,
couldn't you just get a copy of that and then just modify it for this levee?
That's possible.
Let me cut in here.
Sure,
I'm getting a little disturbed because I can see a problem. We only have X number of days before this budget period ends, and the little money we have for this beginning of the first step to correct situations on that levee will go to waste and return to general fund. We have no staff. We were offered by a company, I won't use names, for $10,000 they would do an O&M, operation and maintenance manual. Now, we don't have one, but Al brought up a very key point, which you could get which he could get you a copy of, because right now it's in the mayor's office. It's with the chairman and vice chairman of our commission. It's with engineering, and it's with DPW. They have copies of the what they call the report of the evaluation of the levee, which we had 2 certified engineers come about a month and a half ago and look over the levee. They say here's the situation, here's what you need to correct, and here's how you do it. Now, unfortunately, it lists everything that's a problem with the levee and the steps that should be made to correct it in detail. It's about 8 pages long, but it's not an O&M technically, but it lists what's going on. Now, the only other part you're going to read in there, and it's discouraging, is that we have not done what they've asked. We do not maintain it. We don't have the money for maintaining it. And we go up an $1,000. Hey, we had a hard job to get the money to hire Ty and Bond for this. Now, the money for Ty and Bond, I'll say right now,
Excuse
if
me.
doesn't
Okay.
pass,
Jack,
it's going to go down the tube.
Jack,
Okay,
1 second.
we understand that. May I speak for 1 second?
Go ahead, Meredith.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we have to just focus on the permitting of what's in front of us right now. And it can be a simple O&M. Al just listed 5 things that you could write a bulleted list that says, we will maintain vegetation on the levee as grass. It will be mown biannually. We will ensure any erosion is immediately addressed. It can be very simple, a bulleted list, as Al just stated, and that we can condition the project as such if the commission is comfortable with these 7 trees being taken down. I was relieved to hear that the stumps are not going to be removed at this time because there was no plan to add riprap or make the levee erosion proof, essentially. So it sounds like you're just going to cut the 7 trees to the ground, take them off site, remove the debris, which is blocking both sides of the culvert. Are you asking to do both sides of the culvert?
No, we're only looking at the outfall
No.
side at this time.
Okay. So, and then will the contractor have like what's the word? A grabber?
Yeah,
A
they're
grappler.
looking at getting a grappler. If they cannot get a grappler, they are looking to use chains and pull them out that way.
Okay.
Pull them up and then cut them on the top and DPW. We were talking with Casey Bruby about the removal process, doing it city in-house because of the expenses involved.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And again, I think the major concern is getting equipment so close to the river there and
Right.
and not having erosion, or we don't want to damage the levee. And you
Right.
guys don't want that either. It's
No.
just communicating
Army
that
Corps.
to the contractor is very important.
Right. And Joe Lubelzik and Ed Lubelzik are very familiar with that. They have many contracts. They recently missed out on a contract for the state, but historically they've had a lot of the state contracts from the Office of Dam Safety, which is part of the DCR. They've had the mowing and grooming contracts for DCR for a number of their flood control projects, dams and flood control dams and structures. So they're very familiar with working near the wetlands and not disturbing surface areas of along these water areas.
And then will the area be reseeded with grass after?
That is part of our plan for erosion control. That's a standard practice for flood control, is to reseed the area with grass, clover, whatever mix is most reasonable. But it has to be a light ground cover. Grasses, clovers, such. There wouldn't be any invasives, the part of the other issue is that we're looking to get rid of some of the invasives that are on site, which are the bittersweet vines, and I forgot what the name of the plant is, but they're those bamboo-like plants.
Yeah, the Japanese knotweed.
Yes, knotweed. Thank you. So there is some there that that would be clear in the process. There's a large stand of it in that general area that we won't address because it's beyond the scope of the levee. But again, as Jack said, if I could do a screen share real quick, I have a couple pictures I can put up, just kind of describe the area a little bit. I don't know if it's there. I don't see the option.
Peter, can let him share.
Well, with that, maybe Peter had to step away, but if I may ask, I know Meredith's been there. How many of the commissioners have been to the site?
I haven't, so. That was my
I-
question. Do commissioners
have
want to
not.
go see the site
Right.
before we make a determination?
Okay. So you've seen Westfield River Levee, and you've seen, and some of you were privy to the clearing that was required under FEMA of that levee, or as some people call it, the dike. That's the local terminology for it, but the proper term is a levee structure. That is what a levee, for the most part, should look like, minus some of the areas where there's encroachments on it. There should not be trees or brush or bushes or flowers or other sorted stuff growing on it that would be deep rooted. Surface flowers are fine, but deep rooted stuff, no. And again, this levee has a very historic lack of maintenance. So we have trees on that levee, cottonwoods and other sorted trees that are, some of them are 4 feet across. And again, you know, as Jack stated, there's blowovers, and Meredith has seen some of the larger blowovers on part of the levee, and there's blowovers on the entire levee. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Meredith. So that is the outfalls, and you can see the debris pile up right up against the outfalls. Now, that debris came, there was some debris there prior to December 25th. The December 25th, I keep saying October, and I apologize. The December 25th Christmas storm, the Little River Levee, the water rate rose up approximately 5 feet. So what you're looking at in that picture where you can see the lamb's ear growing just above one of the outfalls, the water was right to that level. And all of that debris floated down the river and piled up there. There's an eddy effect that's going on there where there's actually a hole that's developing immediately adjacent into the right edge of that picture and then upstream from what we're looking at. That's about 6 feet deep and drops off dramatically from the edge of the levee, which is in this picture, you're looking at the existing riprap from a repair Army Corps made in 1983. And if you look to the left on the picture, there's, oh, we're moving along. Perfect. Go back to the one you were just at, Meredith. Okay, so this picture. So the tree that you see there with the ribbon, it might be a little bit more than 4 inches, but that's the tree I was referring to. And if you look at the base of it, you can see a lot of rocks, not just the trap rock, the big trap rock, which that piece of trap rock is approximately 3 feet across maybe. But you can see all the smaller rocks that are at the base of it. That's actually core materials of this levee, where there's serious erosion going on. That bank drops straight down there, and there's 5 feet there that have disappeared in one storm. So what we need to do is get that tree is actually leaning a lot more than what it is now. We need to get that tree cut out of there to stabilize that bank. And then there's 6 other trees above it. There was actually an 8th tree, but we've taken so long to get to this point through all of the fun that it actually fell down. It broke in half, fell down, and then another part fell down. And part of that is actually in that log jam that you see downstream. So we're now down to 7 trees. But there's other trees on that levee structure that are not included in the original 7 that we're looking at, but we do need to clear those trees. And long term, there's trees on the entire levee that need to be removed. But again, that's a
a couple of those trees that are out of 7 are dead.
Correct.
And will eventually on their own fall over. So if we had to wait till next year's budget, we probably wouldn't have 7 trees, probably have 5, because the one that is right at the water edge is ready to go into the river and become part of that log jam on one of the branches downstream. And that dead tree, I don't think is going to survive much longer. It's a mess. I mean,
Meredith,
we don't have a lot of time to
you,
straighten
Jack.
this out. I'm concerned that we can't meet that operation manual that you want, and it's going to be put off, and may never happen.
Jack.
By the way, again, Army Corps has recommended
Jack,
that we do. Yes.
Jack, just hold off for a second. The chair is asking us to.
All right.
So,
well, I think Meredith has made an acceptable suggestion that would meet our approval as far as a minimum operation plan that is needed for the condition.
Right. Mr. Chair, I can provide that to you. I can provide it to Meredith and the whole commission, or through Meredith to the commission, first thing in the morning, if that's satisfactory. And I will include it with it, the report from Army Corps that Jack detailed, and it'll detail some of those points.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so as I see it for the commission, we've got an option. One, do people want to go see the site, in which case we need to continue? If the proposal is acceptable as is, then we could approve it tonight as a limited project with the condition that nothing could happen until we receive this operation and maintenance plan. Any discussion on those?
I at least feel as if we need to get some sort of a minimal maintenance plan before we approve it, because we're sort of expected to approve that as part of this project.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think your second proposal is, you know, suffice as long as Meredith's in the loop there, and you know what I mean? And she's happy with the maintenance plan that they give her. I mean, it's a limited scope of work, and, you know, it's an kind of an emergency, you know, venture here. Just my opinion.
Okay. Meredith, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the Flood Commission is clearly very concerned. They've been working really hard with the Army Corps, trying to get these levees essentially back up and running. They're not maintained. No, I wish you didn't have to cut down the trees. I like the levee the way it is, but if it's not functional, then it's not protecting the city as it was designed. I have been to the site multiple times. And I wasn't clear actually, Al, are you taking down shrubs too? Are you clearing all the vegetation? Because that's gonna, around the 7 trees, just that one question.
Okay, so around the 7 trees and 2 Ponders Hollow Road would be correct. The 7 trees are so let me rephrase that. So we're looking at currently the 7 trees that are marked that you are aware of, that are above the 2 outfalls, those 2 culvert outfalls. There's 7 trees in the general vicinity that Army Corps and the commission identified. Army Corps was concerned that they're endangering the outfalls further. We're looking at removing those now, but the scope of this NOI is to remove the brush, these 7 trees, the debris in the outfall area, and any brush and woody debris on the levee extending from this point to the outfalls to Ponders Hollow Road, with the intent to cut down more trees in that levee, on that levee, as our budget allows over the next year or so. But there's also this secondary project that will be more in depth, where we will, and this is going to take time because we have federal environmental permits that we have to get. Army Corps has to go through. We have to go through Army Corps for all kinds of additional permitting, 401 permit, 408 permit. There was 4 or 5 different permits that were talked about at the federal level. Army Corps has to approve a design. There's a lot involved with repairing these 2 outfalls.
And then that's an additional notice of intent.
Correct. That's separate entirely, and that would also be encompassing the removal of the roots and other work. But this is just to get the surface area cleared of debris on the levee, trees, brush, these 7 trees initially, additional trees between Ponders Hollow and the outfalls as our budget allows, hopefully next year. And again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And I just don't know if the commission's ready to approve this tonight. If they are, I think it's an approvable project. We have the DEP number. As far as the O&M, I don't know what else we will put on that besides this area will be maintained so that it will not erode after the clearing is done. Erosion controls will be maintained. The area will be reseeded, potentially watered, because we're getting later into the seeding window. I guess we need to protect the river. I understand your goal is to protect, or is to make this levee function. Our goal is to protect the river, and it's a cold water fishery. It's a valuable wildlife habitat.
Correct. I agree. I'm an avid outdoorsman, as you know, and I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. first and foremost in my concerns is protecting the Little River. But the function and purpose of the levee is to protect the public.
Yeah.
And again, this levee has many other deteriorations above this section, upstream of this section and downstream. And these conduits this is the first step in getting to the conduits to be repaired.
Yeah.
And if they fail, and we've been very lucky since 55, in the event that we have a 55 or a greater storm, because that wasn't even a 100-year storm, the levee will likely fail. And the longer we take to repair it, the more likely it is that this levee will fail. And if the levee fails, you're putting, as Jack had mentioned, we have the post office, Big Y, Ponders Hollow Road into Broad Street, the Boys and Girls Club, South Middle School, the Industrial Park, Westfield's DPW headquarters with the fuel depot. The fuel depot gets inundated with water. And in 55, there was roughly 4.5 to 5 feet of water in that vicinity flowing.
Al, can I ask
Yes,
you a
I'm sorry.
question?
Sure.
What happened during Hurricane Irene? I mean, why was the levee fine then?
So Hurricane Irene was not even close to 55.
Okay.
1955, Westfield was the bullseye of the storm for rainfall, with 19 3/4 inches of rain falling in Westfield. Irene was, I believe, only 7 or 8 inches. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was 7 inches.
Yeah, and the Westfield River barely came up. It came up quite a bit, and the Little River did as well, but it didn't put pressure on Cobble Mountain Reservoir. And in 55, everything was put under pressure, and Cobble Mountain Reservoir, as Jack stated, Springfield Waterworks had to open their emergency floodgates and release water to protect that dam from failing. And if that dam fails, there's 30 feet of water in downtown Westfield in about 20 minutes. So they opened their emergency floodgate.
It was different storm. There were different
completely
types of
different
storms, and
right.
you
Irene,
can't compare them. Okay.
No, Irene was a third of what Diane was in 55, and Diane wasn't even a 100-year storm. So,
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's another problem. In 1983, with the pressure from the river's volume and velocity, a good piece of the levee was washed down into the river, and the Army Corps of Engineers, for $130,000 in 1983 money, repaired it. But at that time, they said, we're not going to do it unless you sign a local cooperation agreement to maintain the levee. Unfortunately, the city signed it for only 550 feet, but never maintained it. So therefore, with the last 2 years from the reports I get in their evaluation from Army Corps of Engineers of the levee, we no longer can get federal money to repair that levee. So if that levee fails, it's strictly within the city of Westfield. Now, that river, like Al pointed out, could get 4 feet deep in places. I have pictures of it, 4 feet deep on parts of Potter's Hollow Road. Also, one other point. It's not a big secret in the city. The DPW, Casey Verby, and I were the ones that marked those 7 trees. And they're in the way of any future repair of equipment to bring in what they need as a concrete head wall. So it's a big issue. And unfortunately, if you put it off more and we can't get it done within a month, forget it for this budget. I don't think it's going to be a next year. In other words, we're going to say to the Army Corps in here, we weren't approved. We couldn't do it.
Jack,
Sorry.
Jack,
okay, thank you, Jack.
Mr. Chair, if I might just say one more thing. Jack kind of touched a little bit on a point that, so the problem that we face is we need a first step, and this is our first step to getting there. And as I explained to the mayor, we're trying to acquire 6 parcels of land. Part of this maintained section that is there, that we maintain, this 550-foot section, is the piece that these culverts go through, and we don't even own most of it because the city somehow never acquired it. But this section that's maintained there that we kind of mow and groom, that collapsed, a big portion of it literally sloughed off and collapsed like you would see in what happened in the Midwest. It sloughed off into the river from erosion. And it's starting to happen again, and we're trying to fix many, many issues at this levee. But I will stop there. And again, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, back to the question before us. Do we want to do a site visit or not? Typically, I'm all for visiting the site, but I'm going to agree with Cliff on this one. I don't know what I would gain from it. I do know that Al and Jack are environmentally good people. I do know the contractors that they're dealing with are environmentally good people. I'm going to be voting that we approve tonight.
Okay, other commissioners?
I guess I had a question. I'm wondering if we can approve this sort of in little bits since they're in such a hurry. Because I feel like this is a bigger project that needs a little bit more careful consideration. And so I wonder if we can just do something like approving the removal of the 7 trees, since that seems to be the most pressing issue here.
Well, I would also say clearing out the tree debris
Jack,
at the
please.
outfall of the levee.
Jack,
Very
Commissioners
important also.
discussing this now.
Jack.
Thank you.
We
Oh,
also agree with that, yes.
Thank you. Meredith, I'm not sure if we can do approve part of an NOI.
Well, we can approve the removal of the trees and not all the brush, and also the removal of the debris pile.
What will we gain? I mean, they need to remove the brush as well to stabilize the levee or protect it, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much brush out there, I think. I'm not entirely, I didn't focus on I don't think I took a picture of that. Much brush, but I mean, they're still going to have to install erosion controls with the tree removal or with the brush removal. And you're right, I don't think looking at it will really change the plan. Where, erosion controls need to be installed. They need to be monitored. The work needs to be done very carefully because it's right on the river, and it needs to be revegetated afterwards. So
We can put that in the order. Yeah.
Yeah, we can put all that in the order.
Yeah.
Carl, the way I'm looking at it, this is kind of like the test pilot. They're if they find the money, and I hope they will, they're going to be coming back to us for other sections. I say let's let them make the engineers, the federal, I'm not saying U.S. engineers, environmental Army engineers. Let's make them happy.
Okay, other commissioners? Okay. Anyone in the public have a comment about this particular project?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right. Do we have
I'll
a
second it. I'll second.
Any further discussion? I have a question, Meredith. How does this being a limited project affect our order conditions?
So the limited project, the way we will just have that in the minutes, and it doesn't affect our order of conditions. It basically just allows the commission to allow projects that have a large impact. So we're waiving the performance standards. So normally, if this was a solar development, that wouldn't qualify as a limited project because they would have to meet all the performance standards for each of the resource areas. So, normally for work in the riverfront, we require mitigation. There's not going to be 9,000 square feet of riverfront alteration, but because they're claiming limited project status, it just allows the commission to approve a project that normally wouldn't be approvable without mitigation.
Okay.
And I don't know, Melissa, actually, do you agree with that? Melissa's also a chair of a commission, so she, besides having years of permitting experience.
Both sides of the table. No, I agree. So basically it gives the commission the discretion to allow projects, very specific types of project, with kind of an overarching public interest, public benefit, to proceed even if they can't meet the specific performance standards for each resource area. So for instance, you know, alteration of vegetation within the first 100 feet of riverfront area. That's exactly where the levee is located, and that the project goals can't be achieved and the levee can't be maintained and brought into compliance if the commission doesn't allow that to occur. And that's an example of exercising that discretionary authority in light of the fact that there aren't there's no alternative to this project. This isn't development, this is maintenance of infrastructure that isn't included as an exempt activity. Whole nother part of the conversation for another day there. But in order for this to proceed with the commission's approval, this is the mechanism that exists.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so there's no formal way. I don't think there's a checkoff box on the order of conditions. It's just in the motion, somebody should make it as a limited project as written in the Wetlands Protection Act. And that's why they have these limited projects. There's only specific projects that fall under this category because they couldn't do the project if there wasn't a limited project.
Okay. So Tom, do you want to amend your motion to include reference to a limited project?
My motion was to close the public hearing.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay.
Yes.
All right. To that motion, all in favor? We have Jim?
Yep.
Hey, Bob?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
All right, I'll vote yes as well. Okay, now let's look at the conditions. Okay, so
You want me to share, David, or are you gonna?
I've got them.
Okay, great.
Oops. I got them someplace. Oh, I can't see them. Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know why they're not coming out in front of this thing.
You have to open them and then go to share screen.
Oh,
Like,
okay, thanks.
Open the Word document, then go to share screen. I don't know why it's like that, but. Here, I can just do mine. If you,
Yeah, let's use, I can't get rid of this thing.
okay, let me go to the top. Uh-oh, can I do that?
There you go.
Oh yeah, so, but these are all our standard conditions. And
Right.
again, we're gonna have, we'll just go through the list, right?
Okay, yeah.
Down to, where do we usually start?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Soils prior to
There we go. We
construction.
start right here.
Okay, oops, shoot. Okay,
Okay, so there's no SWIP involved.
nope,
So-
uh-oh.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I didn't hear you for a second though.
My earphones just died on me.
Oh no. Technical difficulties, okay.
All right, so there's no SWIP involved.
No.
Deed recording. We need a DEP.
Yep,
No restriction language. Okay.
51, 52. Deed restriction. Did you get to that one? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, do we?
Do we want the deed restriction? I don't know if that's necessary for this city.
I don't think so.
No, we don't want that, no.
All right. There's no wildlife and habitat involved. Applicant letter of understanding, yes.
Yep.
Contractor letter of understanding, yes. Excavator copy of order conditions, yes.
Yep,
Construction sequence, yes.
Yep.
Erosion controls, yes.
Yep.
60 pre-construction meeting, yes.
yes.
Emergency contact information, yes.
Yep.
48-hour notice, yes. There's no Title 5. There's no water quality certification. There's no permanent markers involved.
No.
Signage. There's no comp storage.
No.
No temporary basins. There's tag trees, yes.
Yes.
There's no permanent basins.
No.
We don't need a salt sign zone.
No.
I guess the fertilizer one, because they're gonna be planting grass.
Okay.
I'll make sure they don't put chemicals on it.
No, there would be no chemicals used.
All right, so circle that one. And then 73 low flow, they'll be working during low flow.
Yep.
Okay, motion controls, yes.
Yep.
Installation, yes. So 74 and 75, yes. 76, yes.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
78, yeah, yes. There's no catch basins involved, are there?
No.
Okay.
I don't
Okay,
think there's any right in the road there.
all right. And stormwater requirements, there's no, we don't need that.
Nope.
So just keep going.
Okay. Let me see.
I think we can skip a lot of the next ones, I think.
Let me go. I do. Oh.
There's no monitor involved.
No, but I will, I think I'll act as a monitor if they let me know. I'd like to come and see. Well, obviously we're gonna do a pre-construction, so we're good.
Okay,
I'm gonna scroll down. Dewatering, I don't expect dewatering. Okay,
there's no dredging,
no dredging.
there's no replication. Okay, so permanent stabilization, yes.
Yes.
Where's the removal of erosion controls, number 107, yes.
Yep.
And then certificate of compliance requirements, yes.
Yep.
Okay, any of your suggestions that you had?
Oh, me?
Or is there anything you want to add as a special condition?
Yeah, we should add, as Meredith pointed out, that we're dealing with this as a limited project. We should add the fact that an O&M plan needs to be submitted before shovels or saws are started. And is there a third thing or a fourth thing, Meredith?
I think we covered everything already in the order.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, you can't.
Maybe tree stumps. Maybe we want to specify specifically that the tree stumps will remain. They'll remain in the dirt and the earth.
Yeah, maybe we'll specify the 7 trees that were tagged will be cut, not stumped.
Yes.
Right, okay. Right, any other additions? Okay, want to keep scrolling then?
Yep. So
Okay.
future order.
Nobody's going to be buying it, I don't think.
No, city property.
No,
hopefully.
no stormwater structure. Well, wait,
Sorry,
111, the O&M plan, that's what,
we need that.
and then 112, conditions in perpetuity.
And I'll add 111 to that list so that
Yes,
O&M plan stays active even after the order is closed.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Now,
Let's go to the bond. All right.
a bond. So this is a city project done by a city contractor.
Right.
So I think that's, what do we do? City projects.
Yes, it's number 115.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
it's in the circle. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I think that's it. Let me stop sharing.
it is, okay. Okay, so the commission agree with the orders as we've written them.
Good to me.
All right, do we have a motion to accept the orders?
So moved.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Tom,
I'll vote yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Item C.
Yep.
Another
Al,
level.
excuse me,
Thanks, Al.
Al, Jack, you both did a very nice job. Thank you very much for your
Thank-
work on behalf of the city.
Thank you. I believe
They're on
Jack left the meeting, but
they're on
thank
the
you. I will
next one.
pass on.
Okay.
I
So
forgot how enthusiastic Jack is. I used to sit next to him at the commission meetings.
Yes, Jack is, he's very vocal when he feels very strongly about something.
so
Good
in
luck to you, Al.
Provisions of
Thank
the
you.
Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40. Public hearing will be held on May 25th, 2021 by virtual meeting only. This hearing is for a notice of intent submitted by the City of Westfield Engineering Department for a multi-use trail along the Westfield River Levee located at Ellsworth Street to Williams Riding Way. Okay. Who is our proponent for this one?
Hi, my name is Mary Grover. I am also with Ty and Bond, and I am here with Jean Christie.
Hello.
And so we're going to be talking about the bond.
Okay, thank you. So are you going to be presenting this?
I can screen share.
Okay.
So Mike Cristati is here on phone.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So, I'm sorry?
Mark, you want to speak before Mary gives her presentation?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. What we're looking at is the Westfield River Levee converted into a multi-use trail, which essentially means that we're widening the crest of the levee. And we're doing that through various mechanisms, and the plans for this are online on the City of Westfield's webpage. The levee in question goes from Ellsworth Street all the way along the Westfield River Levee to the east to Williams Riding Way and the flood control pump station. The intent on this is to widen the crest to some 10-foot, currently it is a 10-foot width, but we're going to need to widen it for federal highway standards to around 16 foot, which means we need to, if you look at the structure of a levee, we either need to edge out the toe of the levee on the landward side, or we need to construct retaining walls, and that's what, for the most part, we're intending to do. But obviously, it is the levee, so it is within the resource areas, and so we are within your purview to discuss permitting on the project. We have gone through numerous hearings and meetings. There's already been a public hearing with Mass DOT on the project, 25% design public hearing, and we're certainly open to receiving and discussing any additional or continuing concerns relative to the project, which there are some, I anticipate. But from the environmental perspective, again, the net result of the effort that we're doing would be to enhance the levee against future flood events and potentially future larger events than the levee was initially intended for, in that we're adding mass. By widening, we are adding mass to the levee, so it is going to be stronger to withstand flood impacts. And understand that a FEMA approved levee is around a 3-foot freeboard. So you have 3 feet of levee space that's not intended to see flood height, that you still have some room that should the flood, should with environmental issues, flood rise, that, and again, a strengthened levee would be able to restrain. So anyways, I hope I didn't speak too much, and I'll leave that off then to Ty and Bond. And happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
All right. So if you guys can all see the map that I have up, as Mark said, we're going from Ellsworth all the way down across Union and the bridge here across Westfield River to Williams Riding Way on the east side. So this really allows access for the neighborhoods within these areas to be able to, access this trail, which ultimately connects to the Greenway Trail, rail trail here. So, that's a great benefit for these neighborhoods here. And also for the school that's right here, the playgrounds, everybody can access this trail and come in and out of these neighborhoods. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit to talk about the wetland resource areas. So I'm starting over here on the east side of the levee. So Williams Riding Way here. So there is a bordering vegetated wetland along the levee over here in this forested floodplain area, as well as the Westfield River levee here, the Westfield River, and some bordering vegetated wetlands along the river. So this purple line is the mean annual high water line. The green lines are the BVW lines. And this reddish pinkish line, if you can see it along here, is BLSF, the 100-year flood zone. So all of the work associated with the multi-use path is going to be up gradient from the elevation of the 100-year flood zone, with the exception of one area, which I'll get to later. But all of the trail itself is going to be outside of the flood zone of the river, as it's at the top of the levee. So makes sense. The green dash line here is the 100-foot buffer zone, and the yellow dash line is the 200-foot riverfront area. So majority of the work along the east side of the levee is within riverfront area and the 100-foot buffer zone. And if we could get to the west side of the levee, so we have Ellsworth Street over here, connecting down through Whitney Field. So there is, again, bordering vegetated wetlands that are along the river in the floodplain here, the Westfield River, and a riverfront area extending into Whitney Field, and also the 100-foot buffer zone extending into a portion of the levee itself. So this portion of the trail will be within the 100-foot buffer zone. And then I'm going to zoom into Whitney Field here in the next figure. So as part of this project, there is a house at 47.5 Shepherd Street that the city currently owns, and it's abandoned. It's really, really close to the levee. And as part of this project, it's going to be demolished. It's a public safety hazard being abandoned, and also a hazard to the levee because it's so close to it. And so this is within BLSF, and it's actually going to be a net increase in flood storage capacity for this area. The basement will be filled in but the house will be removed, and the current plan is to allow the area to revegetate. And this area down here circled in red, we are proposing a riverfront area improvement. So if you have been down to Whitney Field, you'd probably notice that there's this pull around area where people park when they fish or loiter or all sorts of activities. And it's kind of this degraded gravel area right now. So because there are not many opportunities along the levee itself for riverfront area improvements, we saw this area as an opportunity to improve the riverfront area adjacent to Whitney Field. So the plan is to remove the gravel, seed and loam the area, so that is more of a grassy area, and we're going to plant some native trees and not allow cars to enter that area anymore. So it'll keep cars on the more developed access road here, or gravel road, keep them away from the river, any potential leaks, have, nefarious activities that happen on the river. So keep everybody away from there and block it off. That is the proposed riverfront area improvements. The project does meet all of the performance standards for BLSF as well as riverfront area. It does, or there is a limited project status for maintained trails, bike paths. However, we are not requesting that to invoke the limited project status, as the project meets all the performance standards. Erosion controls are going to be installed along the limit of work, and compost filter tubes to keep the contractors into the landward side of the levee, as well as protect the resource areas.
May I ask a question?
Not yet.
Is her audio able to be improved? I heard the other speaker very well, but for some reason this talk isn't as clear to me. Is anyone else feeling the same way about the audio?
It is a bit muffled. It is a bit muffled. I wonder if Mary could maybe speak louder.
Does this help?
Yeah, just be a little louder. Just yell at us so we can hear.
Okay.
Thanks.
I guess the last thing I would say is,
or maybe okay.
The last thing I would say is that a portion of the project along the eastern side of the levee is located within priority habitat. We did submit a request for information from Natural Heritage. They indicated that the species is a mussel, it's a creeper. So we do not expect that Natural Heritage will have any issues with this project, as none of the work is going to be on the riverward side of the levee, but we still are awaiting response for the notice of intent. So the hearing cannot be closed tonight because we're still waiting for that confirmation from them. But we'd like to answer any questions now and address any concerns that the commission would have, and see if anyone would like to see the site, although I know you all are probably very familiar with the levee. So yeah, I can take any questions.
Yes, Mary. What exactly is the work, physically speaking? And how are you going to make the top of the levee wider?
Yeah, so it's going to be, paved at the top, 10-foot wide paved section. There's going to be some access ramps to get to the top of the levee. There's going to be grading involved along the landward side of the levee. And that's a summary of what the activity
Mary,
is.
are you expanding the levee? Like, it's going to be wider, right?
The crest will be wider, but not the overall footprint.
Okay.
Like the top of the levee will be widened.
Okay. And then a retaining wall will be on the landward side rather than just like a vegetated berm. Is that how I'm understanding it?
There are
And
portions of there won't be retaining walls along the whole levee, but only certain sections where there's site constraints, like property owner, private properties that can't, be graded into.
Okay. Do we have engineered plans?
Yes, so they're included in Appendix A of the notice of intent.
Great.
So,
Mary, it might be helpful to show the cross sections, the typical sections. And I'm happy to chat through them if you would like.
sure.
So my name is Jean Christie. I'm a senior engineer with Ty and Bond. And unfortunately, I was not the actual engineer on this project because he could not be here tonight, but I am closely involved with it as from the stormwater management perspective. So as you can see in each of these sections, there's a number of sections along the entire length of the levee. They vary a little bit just based on general site constraints. But in general, it's a 10-foot wide paved pathway. We have designed it to shed stormwater runoff to the riverside. That is intended so that people on the landward side don't have any runoff impacts from that increase. And we could talk a little bit more about stormwater management in a minute or two. The 10-foot wide path has a shoulder on each side. As you know, we have bikes traveling down this path. We need a little bit of safety areas in case somebody needs to stop quickly and get off their bike or just get out of the way. So, and then there's also the railing on either side. There's a guide rail on either side of the pathway to keep people from accidentally going over the edge. You can see at the bottom of that page shown that, there is an option for a retaining wall, gravity block retaining wall on the landward side. But the goal is to tie it in natural grading with a 2-to-1 slope, where we can, and avoid walls where we can, but we understand that that needs to happen occasionally throughout the corridor. So if there's a specific place along the corridor that anybody would like to see, we can zoom in on it. It's kind of not as exciting to pan through every page. They're kind of monotonous, but if there's specific concerns, we can probably flip to those areas.
Jean, back to the chairman's question. Are you going to be bringing material in to make this path wider?
Yes. So, the path right now is maybe the crest of it looks to be about 12 feet wide. We do need to in one of these sections, even less than that in others. There will be an import of materials on the landward side of the levee. There is no import of materials on the riverside above the 100-year flood elevation, the BLSF elevation. So all the imported materials, the new material will be on the landward side. You can see, Mary, I don't know if you can quickly pan over where the existing grade line is versus one of the proposed grade lines. That one right there is the existing grade, a lightly dashed one, and then the darker one above that is proposed. So that material underneath along the entire corridor will be brought into site. So that kind of further reinforces the structure of the levee itself, gives you a little more beef maybe to that structure to, for durability through large storm events.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, now you said you're actually going to do the water runoff on the levee side. Well, I mean on the water side, not the.
Correct.
I'm just curious why it would flow, on your, from your concrete or your blacktop towards the water instead of away.
A couple of reasons. Primarily because we don't want any drainage issues on the private property owners. I don't think that's necessarily fair to them. But I think big picture, a path such as this is only applicable, or the Massachusetts stormwater standards are only applicable to the maximum extent practicable. And that's due to this not being a vehicular use. So this isn't going to receive the same salt and sand treatment that a regular street would have. You know, that runoff is going to be cleaner, in, you know, quotes, cleaner than, you know, anything on your street. There is no available space for groundwater recharge on a levee. And as we heard in the previous hearing, Al and Jack were able to kind of set this up perfectly for me. You know, we need to maintain the integrity of that structure, the levee structure, and it's, you know, that assurance that you're going to have protection from a flood. So we don't want to put more water into the levee section itself. We don't want to manage the stormwater on the levee. It really needs to get off the levee. You know, the levees are designed to be pretty impervious. They're, you know, they don't want water seeping through them. So a lot of stormwater runoff runs off of the levee under existing conditions, because there's really not a whole lot of topsoil under, you know, within that structure. So that's why, you know, the stormwater, there's a stormwater management memo in the notice of intent that further goes into detail about, you know, the applicability of this Massachusetts stormwater standards and how this project has minimal impact on stormwater runoff at the riverside.
Right, but with oils from the blacktop, that's not a concern?
Not traditionally from a stormwater standards perspective.
Just checking.
All right, thank you. Other questions from the commission?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
To the applicant, will you be, I guess, how many yards are you going to be bringing in of fill to build this out? And it will be along the entire structure?
I don't have that number in front of me. I don't know if Mark has that in his head at all.
Well, the spirit of the question is, without, you know, walking the site or getting a little bit more information, where will you put all your you're going to be near the river. You're in, I think, a constricted area based on homeowners and other restrictions. How are you going to get equipment in there and make this all workable?
I'll have to.
As far as like access points
Yes.
to get to the levee? Okay, we can go back to.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
This Mark?
Yes, it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so certainly it's a good point that you're talking about a very linear project. And so I believe you can appreciate that to get material in and to work it, you're going to be needing to work along the spine of the project, sort of thing. Understanding that, yeah, whatever, I don't have the quantity for you as far as the amount of material that's going to be brought in, but I'm wondering what the question was looking at, in that understand that all that material will be on the landward side. It will not be on the floodway side or the river side. It will all be on the flood protected side. So we're not looking at any comp storage questions. We are sensitive to the fact that, yes, you're going to be bringing material in on the protected side, and that may have impact to some residents, but we are looking at on a case-by-case basis, and we're working through that.
Well,
Okay.
I think his question was about, you know, moving material and stuff. So you're going to have to you're going to be running excavators, I would imagine, and bulldozers along the top of on the top of the levee, you know, straightening everything out. So the weight of those isn't going to do anything to the levee. I'm just.
The levee was built in a similar manner, so no, we're not anticipating any deprivation to the levee due to construction material operation.
Right. So your work zone is basically, for the most part, is going to be from the top of the levee, and then you're going to work your way, you know, at different access points. You're just going to be going down the levee, doing it down the center of it, and And then wherever you have to do construction next to the houses is basically, the other
Yes,
side.
pretty much so. Yes.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you, Mark.
Mark, did you catch a little state money for this job?
We have actually the design that we're currently working with for the full design of the project is a state grant that we're working on, a Mass Trails grant. Anyways, we've tapped into a couple of different project sources. One was the Gateway Community Grant, and then there's the Mass Trails grant, and we're looking for Mass DOT construction dollars to actually build the project. We have hoped for, federal earmarks. They're new. They're just coming out now, but we did not make that list, and that's why we had submitted the permit at this point in time, in anticipation to set us up for some sort of like the earmark funding. But nothing yet is in place.
This is a great project. I'm not trying to scuttle it at all, but our earlier hearing on Ponders Hollow left me with a strong impression that levee needs a lot more help and attention than this levee does. But I see, this was probably tied into recreation, and that's how you got the money. But I hope you heard Al's plea to you. Maybe you weren't on that.
No, I was
the city.
I've been part of the flood commission meetings for a number of meetings, and certainly have appreciation for the flood commission's concerns.
And do you share their opinion that the Little River levee is more concerning than this levee?
I'd rather defer that. I think that the Westfield River levee is a prominent facility, more so than the Little River levee. I'm not trying to say that the Little River levee doesn't have value, but I certainly, if you're going to weigh the two, the Westfield River levee is predominant.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Again, we're going to have to continue this because we don't have the report from Natural Heritage yet. Any other questions before I'll request a motion to continue?
Just one follow-up to Mary. You showed us the picture of Whitney Field and where people like to park, and how you're going to improve that. Directly to the west of that is one of the vast expanses of Japanese knotweed that I've ever seen, a forest, literally a forest of it. Have you guys given any consideration to trying to help us control some of the invasives along this path? Maybe even specifically right there?
Yeah, definitely. I've checked out both of these areas on either side of this cleared area, and they're just full of all sorts of invasive species.
Yes.
So the plan
My
for
question,
this area,
my question is, does your plan address those? Is this an opportunity to try to impact that invasive
we
attack?
definitely did consider that, and unfortunately the scope of that is just so large that we can't possibly include it, clearing out all of the invasive species for this project.
Yes, Mark?
Thank you. Meredith, can you speak to any conversations you've had with the Department of Public Works or the Park and Rec personnel? I mean, I understood that they were looking to address, as you mentioned, that large expanse of knotweed, ancillary to this effort. And so, we haven't focused on it. We've been pertinent to what is appropriate to the impact of the project at hand. But certainly we haven't ignored but we are understanding that the city has a continuing desire to improve the issues out there. And Meredith, I guess I was understanding that you had some communications with DPW to that regard.
I had talked to them quite a while ago about coming up with a plan to control the invasives down there. And, but we needed a permitting pathway, and maybe this is the way, you know, because it's so close to the river, we couldn't just go in there and start clearing out the knotweed. And you know, we really need a written plan because it's an extensive stance, and it's not the type of thing you just deal with in 1 year. You know, this is the treatment of knotweed, and you can't mow it. You have to spray it with herbicides. And I don't want them spraying herbicides when the flowers are out, because there's tons of bees and insects that are all over those flowers. So anyways, we discussed it, and I said we need to figure out a permitting pathway. And maybe this is the venue, but I don't want to, you know, tie up I want to be sure that this project is meeting the performance standards, and the reason why they're doing the plantings at Whitney Field is to meet the mitigation factor, because they're altering Riverfront. They are required to do some mitigation. And Mary, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know you went through and addressed all the DEP comments. And this is a perfect area to get revegetated. And I did want to hear about the native plantings. However, it would be quite a feat to ask them to also treat all that knotweed, but we should consider it. We need some sort of a plan, you know.
Well, so Meredith, I completely agree with you. You do need a plan. I would suggest that this project is not necessarily the avenue for that plan, but that a plan is definitely in order. I would hate to tie to this project such an important and it's going to take a number of seasons and years. And what if this project doesn't move forward? I mean, it's like it's really independent, and it needs to be looked at in that regard. That you know, this project, I don't even have funding for yet. I mean, it could be 6 years. It could be, who knows. And I wouldn't want to hold that effort up onto this project. In that, I think it needs to move forward, but in its own merit.
Okay, thank you.
I had one question before we close, and I know, can you just tell us what the native plantings are going to be in that area, Mary? And I didn't hear, were there going to be bollards blocking it to prevent folks from driving in there?
Yeah, so the city has actually already put, there are some, if you can see these little posts across here that are there, okay. And the 2 access points are blocked currently with concrete blocks. So the plan is, like I said, to remove all this gravel, loam and seed it, maintain the understory as lawn so that the invasive species don't encroach from both sides. But then we have included red maple, gray birch, silver maple, and cottonwood. And that is included in the notice of intent application.
Okay.
We'd like to let it revegetate completely. However, you know, we want to give these trees an opportunity to succeed and not be overtaken by Japanese knotweed. So.
All right, thank you. Would the commission like to do a site visit?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. So Meredith, can you get something organized for before the next meeting?
Yes, of course.
We should have Natural Heritage response by the next meeting, I would think.
I would think so. They typically have 30 days to respond. So I would encourage, I mean, I can follow up, or especially if they're not going to be in the river. So I would encourage Time Bond to just send them a quick note too before the next hearing.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
If there are no other questions at the moment, first, any questions from the audience, the public, concerning this particular project?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, that very red circle, half circle by the Westfield River in Whitney Playground is an amazing piece of land, an amazing way that a human being can get in a car and drive in that area, or that a person could walk down the bank of a river, a sandy bank, walkable, and get access to that river. And I think it's a very important thing to provide people and to not lock people off from access to the river. That little spot I have visited many times. I've snorkeled up the river from there. I have walked the river from there. I have snorkeled the river all the way to Tecoa Country Club and all the way downstream, almost to the Connecticut River. So I think your idea and plans to block it off should be reconsidered, should really be reconsidered. I went to Connecticut state parks. They're free for out-of-state cars. Our Robinson State Park is $30. You can go and you can park close. You can bring a grill. You can grill food. You can stay in a spot and stake it out all day long in Connecticut. And I really think we need to provide human beings more access to the river, and I will stop.
Well, the project does not block pedestrian access to the river, in my interpretation.
Well, that driveway is a place for cars to go where people could either bring fishing gear or picnic gear or to spread out on that lawn. And I think if no one in the commission has used it and other people are using it, we should not willy-nilly stop access to it.
Thank you. We'll consider that. And again, we'll do a site visit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to make a motion to continue till June.
Mr. Chair, if I may speak from the public.
Yes, Dal.
Sorry to interrupt. Al Jaguar, Chair of the Westfield Flood Control Commission. So on behalf of the commission, I'd just like to say that we do support this project as it does bolster that levee. And speaking to a question that was raised earlier, this levee is much more substantial and important to, I don't want to say more important to the flood control program of Westfield, but its purpose is to defend against the largest tributary in the western half of the state and one of the two largest in the entire Commonwealth. So that levee's improvements, if you will, in width will help it sustain a large flooding event. And in 55, that levee did fail in 2 locations due to pressures on the levee. So we do wholeheartedly support the improvements on this levee. And with regard to the other, it is no less important in the grand scheme of things, but there are other issues, and I'll leave it to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, I made a motion to continue to June 8th.
Yes, so moved.
A second?
I'll second that.
Please stop sharing the screen, Mary. Thank you. All in favor? Tom?
I'll vote yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, item 4, public meetings. 27 Angelica Drive, continued from April 27th. Meredith?
Yep, I believe the applicant's here. They did, I don't know if you guys want to tell them, or I know they did have Levee go out there and re-stake the Riverfront area and the buffer zone, I believe. And it sounded like, yeah, do you want to just give us an update on the project?
Sure. Yeah. So just as a reminder, we're looking to remove the trees that are, in danger of hitting our home. We're not looking to expand our lawn. This is our 3rd meeting with you all. And at the last meeting, we talked about having that that 200-foot buffer more accurately staked out, which we did. So we had RLA come out because they had done the previous plan. So it was pretty easy for them to just use GPS and put those new stakes out for us. And it looks like the line is pretty consistent with the edge of the woods, plus or minus a few feet in some areas. And then, as you also requested, we had a forester come out, Tom Anderson, from the list that Meredith provided. He came out last week, and I provided Meredith a letter with his recommendations and let her know that, you know, he offered to speak with her or any of you who might have questions. But basically, just to kind of summarize, he said that the trees are really in poor condition due to growing up in an overstocked pine stand, not because of the clearing of the development. Most of them are multi-stemmed, have low, weak crotches. They're flat-sided crowns. They have bleeding pitch. This is all in the letter that she has as well. But removing them, you know, I know the commission is obviously sensitive to protecting the wetlands. And he said removing them would have no effect on the wetlands at all. And in fact, would actually enhance the understory that's pretty well developed with bushes and saplings, and that would actually provide more protection than the pine trees are doing. Because the trees are 100 feet tall or higher, he really suggests that we remove any of the ones that are endangering our home within that 100-foot kind of you know, area from the house. And I think that's, I mean, that would be more trees than we actually have marked. And I think cost-wise, we would not probably be able to do that all at once anyway, if we were to do that, if we were to get permission for that. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I think that's pretty much what I have.
So Marissa, the Levee survey, did it make much of a difference? You said a couple of feet here, a couple of feet there.
There's maybe one tree that's outside of the area, but really the rest of them are all within the kind of distal part of the buffer. So the furthest outward point.
Understood. I haven't been to your property, but you already have signs out there, right? Some kind of signage from the developer who built your home?
There's one on like each corner of the property, but we've found several of them in the woods. So I don't know if the previous homeowners removed them at some point. So that's why we weren't entirely sure where the exact line was.
I see, but you've put them back up for us, or?
We haven't put them up yet. He just put the stakes in this past week, so we haven't had a chance to put them back up. They're kind of, some of them are pretty far into the woods too, so we have to go and locate them all, and it's a little bit hard right now with the amount of brush that's kind of grown in.
Yeah, I read the forester's report. I thought it was professional. Clearly, he is saying that you should go ahead and I think he too might have had concerns about how expensive this could get for you guys. But do you have an idea now how many trees are we discussing tonight? How many trees do you want us to approve this evening to be removed?
I mean, we marked out 33. There's probably a total of like 40 to 50. There's no way we can afford to take down all of those. And also some of them aren't even that tall. Like they're just dead. I mean, what do you think? Probably 30. Probably.
I would say if we could get the permission for 30 and we could selectively choose the ones that were most, concerning. Like he said, there's some smaller ones that probably are less of a concern, right now anyway.
Right.
It would be the ones that are closest to the house that we would want to deal with first. And those are the ones that we've marked.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, what are you recommending here? I almost got the impression the forester was saying, hey, let them take down any tree they want to within 100 feet of the house or 110 feet of the house or whatever the tallest, closest tree was. Is that the way we should be thinking of this, or should we approve 30 trees?
Well, I think you're right. That's my impression of what he said. Considering the house is about 27 feet from the edge of the woods, He's suggesting they clear cut, another 73 feet into the woods, into the, within, almost up to the edge of that 100-foot buffer area, maybe 20, and leave 25 feet or so behind there. I think if we approve this, I think we need to have the commission play a role in selecting the trees and not let them just clear cut.
Yeah, I think if you guys come out to see them, there is a lot of new growth, and there's a lot of like maple trees. There's a lot of new growth under there. So we would only be taking out the pine trees, and would want the rest of that stuff to grow in and fill in. It's even filled in a lot since you guys came out to the first time.
Right.
I mean, removing some of the pine trees is going to have an effect on a lot of the birds in that area and other organisms that those trees are little ecosystems in among themselves. Dead trees on the ground provide habitats and so on. So,
and we'd be willing to leave some of them, in the forest for that purpose, but kind of respecting the fact that you want to protect the wetlands, we'd like to protect our home as well. And so I understand. I very much want to keep the habitat. I mean, we chose to live in the woods for a reason. I just listen to those trees creak out there and watch them sway, and really don't want them to fall on our home.
But I guess a lot of people in Westfield have trees that height, close to their homes. I mean, that's part of living in this town, I think.
And maybe something we should have considered, before we bought the house, but here we are. And, I do enjoy living here, but I would like to just feel a little bit safer about the trees that are that close to our home. I mean, none of the houses on our street have trees that are within 10 feet. Some of the trees are extremely close to our house, especially kind of on the driveway side. I think you probably saw.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a condition of the lot.
Yeah. Which was approved, and that's.
Well, also based on the forester's report, a lot of them are really weak too. So.
Yeah. He said really the only reason that they're still standing is because they have trees behind them, and the majority of the wind comes from the northwest. And so they have trees behind them that help support them. But if we were to get any easterly winds, they would blow them right over pretty much.
Yeah, I've got to remind you guys what one of the commissioners, what Cliff brought up last week, was that if you start thinning a pine forest, you're going to make some of the neighboring trees that you leave fall. I mean, they provide some kind of integral support to each other. So it's going to be tough for you to do it just piecemeal. I mean, I don't think you can just go in there and take out 5 or 6 trees without increasing the likelihood that one is going to come into your backyard.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Cliff.
I just want to mention, yeah, that wasn't me. That was Alex last week about the.
Oh,
thinning.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
No problem. But I just want to remind the commission though that I don't know, this couple's really gone above and beyond, following all our guidance. We said, take the extra cost and get it flagged, to get the extra cost and have a forester come out and look at it. If they're not going to be cutting it themselves. They're going to have to use a forester or a tree guy. So, like you said, maybe the commission could point out, give them the approval for the 30. They're not going to do it all at once anyway. And like anything, the forester or the tree guy is not going to cut down the ones that are holding up the other ones, because he doesn't want to have the liability of the next windstorm taking down the house, from the next trees behind it. Yeah, I'm just trying to work with the homeowners here too. They have jumped through all the hoops, and just my opinion.
Other comments from the commission?
So, Mr. Chair, it seems to be that the best thing to do is we do have a site visit out there with the homeowner and select some trees that would be appropriate for everybody. And also, I found it beneficial to read the forester's report today, and the information did provide, and it did open my eyes also.
Okay, thank you. Meredith?
Yeah, I have to say, I really appreciate you guys getting a forester on board, because it makes us a lot more comfortable, and we're not foresters, and I didn't know about the pine weevil. So it's good for us to know that stuff. And I think this is approvable. We obviously don't want anything to happen to your home. We're not trying to get in the way of that. We are just trying to balance all the implications of the Wetlands Protection Act and people's needs. So that's why we're hesitant. It's not anything personal. We just, we don't want everyone in the city just clear cutting the riverfront area because they're scared of trees. So we understand that there's dead trees that need to be removed. I would prefer we leave some of that coarse woody debris in the forest. Perhaps you guys, maybe some topping of trees can be done at the appropriate height so that when they fall, they will fall on the forest floor and creating microhabitat that way while not impacting your home or lawn. Like we clearly don't want that. So I think it's permittable. I think we could go through and just pick out the trees that we can cut and not stump, but cut and reduce height. I think there's more options. The forester didn't give us that many options. That was one thing I did not appreciate about the report. He just seems to say clear cut.
Yeah, I asked him specifically about topping, and he said there's no benefit to that. He said they need to come down. I understand your point of view with providing some habitat, and I think I'd be okay with doing that with the trees that are maybe further back. But
But
so
it is a benefit. So he was taking the forester. He had his blinders on. There's quite a huge benefit to standing dead trees, coarse woody debris on the ground. That's a very normal, natural place for animals to feed, nest, all those things. They're very important in a forest. So, and that's one of the provisions of the Wetlands Protection Act. It is to maintain wildlife habitat. So with that said, I think the commission could approve trees to be cut at our discretion based on the forester's report that many of them are dead and dying from this pine weevil issue.
What does our discretion mean to you, Meredith? That you go out there and you decide which tree they take down? That's why we asked for the forester.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Fair enough. Yeah, but he's just saying clear cut now, just clear cut the riverfront area. I'm not comfortable allowing that. I don't know if that's, is that's like, I don't know. I just don't know if that's permittable. It's not even me. It's not me personally. It's like, is that permittable under Wetlands Protection Act?
But and I'm just asking a question, but isn't the Wetlands Protection Act to protect the wetlands? And he clearly said within his report that removing them would actually allow the understory of bushes and saplings to flourish and actually enhance that protection.
Pretty much, that's what he said. He said
I read that too, and but I'm a little skeptical about that.
That's a forester's opinion, whereas it would have been a wetland ecologist's opinion that we would.
Well, I have to, but here I'll jump in with this. We're the ones that said go out and get a forester. Yeah. Now it's all go out and get this and go out and get that. I'm not saying I think we just make a vote and whatever. I'm going to vote for it. Just because they've gone, above and beyond. They're not out there clear cutting. They're not out there doing everything beforehand, and they've jumped through, you know what I mean?
And our goal is not to clear the land. Our goal is to let the forest that is there, just removing the tall pines that really aren't adding anything other than my insomnia.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question to the applicant.
Yes.
So there has been mention of some maple saplings and other types of tree stock. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and perhaps the heights of some of these other saplings of other types of trees out there that are in the understory?
I don't know much about the different types of trees, but as far as the heights of the trees that are not pines, there's a few like right on the edge that are probably like 20 to 25 feet tall. There's some a little bit further in that are maybe 8 feet tall.
There's a lot of bushes.
There's a lot of bushes. It's really filled in completely. There are some like invasive stuff that we could probably take off some of the trees so they can grow a little bit more.
Yeah, Meredith, I think you had mentioned that when you first came out, that there was a lot of that invasive vine. I forget what you called it, but
yeah, bittersweet.
Mhm. Yeah. So some of the trees, at least on the outer part, are being kind of wrapped up in that. And, you know, I think it would allow them to grow better if we could help control that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think we ought to go forward and allow these folks to remove some trees. But so is this an NOI or RDA or what is this here?
An RDA.
RDA. So and why don't we just set it up so that we just do a site visit as soon as possible to assist them choose the trees. And I don't know how the board feels about that.
And that is Meredith's suggestion. I mean, I'm not comfortable with them just clear cutting 70 plus feet of trees.
Well, that resolves that issue if we go out and it may be 30, 35, as they say, or we may get a comfort level based upon some other vegetation that we see that will truly benefit from more sunlight and less competition from those pines.
All right, so
it still seems like a lot of trees, but I mean, I'm all for cutting some trees. I just, I worry that that's kind of a lot.
Okay.
My question is, how about if you do cut like 30 trees or 20 trees, are you comfortable within your budget of what you want to spend too? You have to come back to us because of the fact that it costs so much to cut these trees that you'll have to come back to us again and say, hey, I can only afford to do 15. Maybe next year I want to do another 10.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, I say prioritize.
Yeah, we would focus on the ones that are the most, like have the most potential to falling on our house, right? And right now there are a lot right on the edge. So that's why we still said 30 trees. I think that if we had to come back later, if there were some that possibly are leaning or were concerned, then we'd come back later. But I think we really want to focus on the ones that are really like right up next to the property edge that can have potential or are leaning towards our house or are really in poor condition. We would focus on those first. However, there are a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that we have currently marked. And there's, I mean, if you exclude the couple that we marked that are literally dead sticks that are standing up leaning on some of them, we're probably talking 30 trees.
And we haven't reached out to anyone as far as pricing yet.
We have a general idea from someone who, you know, we may end up using, which is not the forester. So I think we would probably be able to afford somewhere between 20 and 30. But, you know, beyond that, I don't think we would this year, at least.
Okay, I've got a suggestion. Carl, as our resident botanist, would you accompany me and Meredith out there? We can help the homeowners accomplish what they want to do.
That sounds like a reasonable thing. Yeah. And it may very well be that I get out there and sort of it's, yeah, all these need to go, or maybe there are some that we can save. So I think that sounds like a good idea.
Is the commission comfortable with that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. Then any in the audience like to talk about this particular project? All right. Any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, entertain a motion to close the public meeting.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Okay. we need the conditions read into the motion. Jim?
The first would be that the trees may be cut at the discretion of the commission after being reviewed and approved in the field. The lawn may not be extended further into the buffer zone or the riverfront area. The trees that are approved by the commission may be cut, but the stumps shall remain in place. Regarding that, I think just thinking of some basic aesthetics, you know, if the stump can be sheared as close to the ground as possible, but also allow the roots to retain the soil, that might be beneficial to everybody. And then invasive control of bittersweet vine is approved, and encouraged native shrubs shall remain in place. Anything else?
I think that covers it.
Is it, what is it a -3 with conditions? Is it a negative, what is it with conditions?
I apologize, -3 with conditions.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Colleen. Yep.
And who seconded that?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Tom?
I'll vote yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, I'll vote yes as well. So Meredith will arrange our meeting out there, and we can get the ball rolling.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5, enforcement. 394 Northwest Road. No updates. We'll continue until 6/8. We have a motion to continue to 6/8.
I'll make a
make that
motion that
motion.
we extend it to 6/8.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Carl?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Jim? I lost him. And I'll vote yes. Cliff?
Yes.
Okay. Item B, East Mountain Road. Again, we're working with the homeowner.
Yeah, just to clarify, this is 1760 East Mountain Road, not
Okay.
another project on East Mountain Road.
I've got a concern about this one as far as
Yes.
communication with the homeowner. We think there's going to be a language issue as far as understanding English. So Meredith and I were talking about the possibility of retaining an interpreter. I know the commission has done this in the past, but I think we need to have the commission, make some kind of approval just in case we need to do that. Any discussion?
Well, it's an enforcement, right?
Yes,
So
it is.
everything we're communicating is in writing. If they'll have to find someone to read it if they can't read English. Are you talking about going out and having a site visit with an interpreter by your side? Why?
If we have to, I mean, there's an
Why?
Well,
extensive
yeah, so the
buffer
yeah.
zone. And this needs a lot of delicate work, detailed work. And we need to make sure that the homeowner understands explicitly what we need to have them do. When we were out there for the site visit, there was a young girl who acted as an interpreter, but that may not be good enough for us in the future. And I don't think we should put the burden of understanding on such a young person.
But they're going to need some kind of outside help, right, David? They're going to need to do. I don't know this situation at all. I don't know what they've done or how bad the infractions are, but they're going to have to hire a Levee or somebody like that to come up with a remediation plan. Hopefully they'll hire someone who speaks English.
We were trying, so the woman called me, this young woman, and she said she received the enforcement order and she was confused. And I did go over it with her and she seems to understand what needs to happen. I just, it just seems like a burden on these people. I know they did violate the Wetlands Protection Act, but I have not met with the actual owner of the property. I've only met with this younger person who is very competent. She's not the actual owner of the property. And one of the property owners was there, and I don't think she spoke any English. I'm not sure. She didn't say anything. So I just don't know. I haven't dealt with this situation before, and I wanted to get the commission on board with potentially getting an interpreter if we can't explain to these people. I guess we could make them hire a consultant to come up with the restoration plan.
Otherwise, what's the alternative? You're going to do it for them, Meredith?
Oh, I'm not
We're
going
going
to
to do it.
Well,
then the interpreter's going to do it. I don't get this at all.
I was trying to help them get it back into compliance just by, the enforcement order outlines what they have to do. They just need to be able to understand that. So this is in the future. I did tell them, if you guys get the hay bales on site, I will show you where to put them in. But they do need to still get seed and get the appropriate shrubs and revegetate the buffer zone. Luckily, it's not a wetland impact. It was a large area of buffer zone only that was cleared. So.
And clearly you and David think that an interpreter would be helpful in this case. Is that correct?
Like potentially, if it keeps going that I can't, if they're not understanding what they have to do. But Tom did have a good point. If they have a written document that outlines what they need to do, is the burden on them to get that interpreted? I'm just not sure the appropriate avenue for dealing with something like this. So I'm not saying we need one today. I'm just saying this is a possibility. And this has come up on quite a few projects. So it's just something. Yeah, what have you done in the past? I know we've got a sign language.
We have had an ASL translator before. We've never had a translator who spoke a different language other than ASL. Maybe we should consult with law and see if the burden is on us to ensure that the language is correct. So like, how the hospitals, they by law have to have everything in another person, in the person's native language, or have an interpreter present that is not family. So I don't know if that burden of proof is on us, or I shouldn't say burden of proof, the burden of the language barrier is on us. I'm thinking consult with legal and find out if that is with us.
Yes, that's a good suggestion, Colleen. Thank you.
Just because I'd rather do things legally than not.
Well, it makes it more clear too. It's like, yes, we should be providing the interpreter, or no, the burden is on the applicant, or it's not on the homeowner, essentially.
Right.
And at this, yeah. And I've wondered this in the past, so I don't know why I haven't contacted law. So.
Right, and I know that with the ASL translator, we were required by law to have that ASL translator, but we had a lot of, we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get that ASL translator. So.
But we legally have to, because a person that needs sign language has to be able to understand what we're talking about. So, yeah.
Correct. So my suggestion is to talk to legal about it and find out if it is actually on us or if it's on the homeowner.
All right, thank you. So at least now the commission's aware of our concern. So motion to continue till 6/8.
Yes, I'll make that motion.
You have a second?
I'll second that. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
All in favor, Tom?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Jim,
Yep.
thank you. Item C, 88 Furtown Road. Applicant, again, is hiring RLA to help them out. Request continuance until 6/8.
So moved.
I'll make it that second.
Okay. Who
Could
made
I
the
just ask, what's the issue in terms of the enforcement?
So we
Just briefly.
issued an enforcement order last meeting, and we gave them till June 8th to hire a consultant and get a wetland delineation. And they've initiated hiring our Levee to do their delineation. So that was the one where we need to figure out where we have jurisdiction before we can say what we need to have restored. Yep, and they're moving forward with that.
Okay.
And had they cleared areas that were wetland, or what was the
It's hard
violation?
to tell.
We don't
They
know if it's wetland or not at the moment.
It's so cleared, it was hard to tell.
Yeah.
So.
Colleen, do we have a motion and a second?
We do, we're just waiting on the vote.
Okay, Tom?
Who made the motion, Colleen?
I did.
Jim did, and you seconded it, Tom.
Ah, that was pretty smart. In that case, I'm gonna vote yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Okay, thank you.
What time is it?
I think just vote yes. Just vote yes.
Time. It's time.
We're almost there.
Ah.
Item 6, discussion, Bay State Noble.
Yeah, so I got a call about they'd like to fix the potholes in the parking lot at Bay State. This is the area where it's the dirt parking lot, and we had them install Jersey barriers so that no additional material was getting. What was happening is that the dirt parking area was being plowed, and every year sediment is going down into the wetland. So the parking lot's in the buffer zone. They did install the Jersey barriers, and that I went over there, and the barriers did an amazing job. No new sediment left the site last winter. Went down the slope, I'm trying to say. So now they want to, it's like resurface the parking lot. There's not a ton of potholes, but there are a few. And when I was there, it was after a rain event, and they were full of silty water, and it was like getting all over employees' cars when people drove by. So I didn't know if the commission wanted to allow them to fix the potholes. Did they need to file?
I did drive back there. I saw the Jersey barriers. I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
To solve the problem. I think if they just want to grade it down and level everything, I don't know if they want to bring in more trap rock. It's, if anything, a little more trap rock might stabilize the stone dust that I think laid down there some other time. But yeah, it should be, straightened out a little bit.
All right, so is everybody on tune with letting them go ahead and fill in the potholes and level out the parking lot?
That sounds reasonable to me, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I want to add, though, we would not want it necessarily sloped towards the Jersey barrier, so we want them to maintain the current grade level.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I can write a letter stating all that.
All right, so we need a motion to permit Meredith to write a letter to them, allowing them to fill in the potholes and regrade the parking lot so that it does not slope down towards the wetland.
I would make that motion, but then in 2 minutes I'd forget I made it. So I'm just going to be quiet.
Why don't you just make the motion and vote at the same time if the chair will let you?
Get it over with.
Well, Tom made the motion. We need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Tom?
Yes.
Okay, Carl?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah.
I'll vote yes as well. Okay, item B, Russellville Road. a potential violation, but
Yeah, I'm still gathering information on that one. So that was it's a farm field, and I got a couple of calls, and I drove by myself and saw there was some cutting of trees in a wetland, and kind of like to connect to farm fields, and it looked like ditching the area. So I've been playing phone tag with the gentleman. He did call back, so I'm still gathering info on that one. So I will let you guys know.
all right, thank you.
What needs to be done.
Number 7, other items. Do we have, we don't have minutes from April 27th and May 11th yet, do we?
No,
Okay.
sorry, I was having problems transferring the April 27th from my personal laptop. And then the May 11th, I was kind of playing phone tag with legal about asking them questions about how many interruptions I was supposed to put in there.
Okay.
So, you know what I'm saying?
All
So
right.
I just wanted to make sure I get that particular set of minutes very precise and very correct. So that's the reason that those are not correct.
All right,
Or
thank
not done yet.
Okay, item 8, commission discussion. And we've all gone around with this concept of public meeting, and I've talked to the city lawyer about this and gotten some information about how we can, in conjunction with Peter, make sure that what happened last time never happens again. So I think we're okay in that. I did get a call from the police department about that evening. So, and it's on YouTube. So anybody around the world can listen into our meeting on YouTube. So item B, wetlands ordinance. I took a stab at adding some stuff to it, and I emailed it to everybody today as a Word document. And what I did was stuff that I think we can remove. I put in red ink and stuff that I think we should add to help clarify things, which I appropriated from other ordinances, are in blue. So take a look at those. I still haven't had a chance to figure out how to fit in the 50-foot buffer information. So if you have suggestions on wording that, send them to me. And then slowly we can put this together into a final form that we can vote on, and then send it on to the mayor and the city council for approval.
Carl had some feedback on the 50-foot, didn't you, Carl? When I read your email.
I was wondering if anybody had gotten that. Yeah. So, and I can send that around again if people want to get that. It wasn't clear to me. David's posting had prompted me to check, and it wasn't clear that mine had gone out of my draft. So I wasn't sure if anybody else had gotten it, actually. So.
I didn't see a draft. I saw a mention of it, but not a draft.
Yeah,
I saw the mention, but no draft either, if I recall.
Well, I wasn't sure actually if it had been sent. So if you got something, then I guess it did get sent, which is good.
But you're expecting that we're going to remember it then.
Right. Foolish me.
If you could resend it, I think it'd be appreciated.
I'll be glad to. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know.
And mine actually was just a slight addition, and then a paragraph at taking a first stab at doing that 50-foot golden rule. So
Perfect.
Yeah, take that and send it around to us and see. Let's take a look at what I added in there, see if it makes any sense to help clarify things. Item C, summer schedules. I think we still need to work every 2 weeks. I know we tried one summer doing it once a month, and it really caught up to us with meetings longer than this one. So I think we need to keep it every 2 weeks.
I think that what we're getting at is to try and let us know if you're going to be on vacation kind of ahead of time. Do you know what I'm saying? So rather than not to change it to once a month thing, it's more of if you're going to be on vacation, you know what I'm saying? To kind of let us know ahead of time. That's, I think, the point of that. Not not rescheduling the meetings, but your schedule.
Well,
okay.
I did mention to David, I had the brilliant idea when I talked to him earlier, well, why don't we have one meeting a month? That sounds nice for the summer, but he said, we would get, I mean, doesn't that sound nice? I need a summer break.
A 6-hour meeting, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
David is a real party pooper, Meredith.
I know. I can't get this guy to, no. Okay, so yeah, so I
Seven
was
of us,
just,
we should be able to get 4 people at a time, so.
yeah, so 3 of you are allowed to call out every other week. But is there a rule about that? If you have to be present when they open the hearing, right, to make a vote?
Yes.
Okay. I also, there's one other update that's not totally summer schedule, but I know we are getting, with everything allegedly coming to an end with the emergency order, we may have to go back to City Hall, but there is legislation in the Senate and House right now at the state level to continue to allow Zoom meetings. And yeah.
Well, thank you, Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so law is continually looking into this. They're going to send a memo out as soon as decisions have been made. I, for one, am very anxious about being in a room full of people without any masks on, but I don't know. I don't quite know what's going to happen, so we'll see what happens. And yeah.
And then,
and I know Tom
David,
had a question.
Yeah, David, back to your question or your answer. I'm unclear. If I miss the first meeting of a NOI, but then I'm there, during that next week I look over the information, etc., and I come to the second meeting, I've always assumed I can vote. I've done my homework. I understand the questions before me. I'm not sure that you need to be at all of the meetings to weigh in on the final vote. I could be wrong. I just don't. I'm surprised by that answer because I know I've done it. I know I've voted on things where I didn't hear all of the public information.
well, I misinterpreted the question. I thought she was talking about starting a meeting and then having to leave the meeting.
I meant, are you allowed? Yeah, no, I meant what Tom was saying. Can you, for some reason, I thought you couldn't vote if you weren't present at all the meetings, but maybe you can just read the minutes. I can ask the Ethics Commission or law.
Okay.
Could you please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, item D, Colleen needs a vote on the signing authority.
So in the past, we have attempted to have everybody have a signing authority, but they have said no to that. So I need you guys to vote that it's okay for Meredith and David to be our signing authorities.
Gee, thanks.
So that means that you can sign, like you can sign payroll and that sort of stuff. That's what the signing authority is for.
You mean two signatures, both of them, or one or the other?
One or the other. I don't need both of them to sign. I just need to have, for the paper that they filled out, yes, I have their signatures, but if I only need one signature for payroll. You know what I'm saying? So
we only need one signing authority.
Right, one signing authority at a time, but I need more than one signing authority because say Meredith's on vacation, I need somebody to sign my payroll, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'll make a motion that we designate our chairman and our administrator as signing authorities.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Tom?
How about yes?
Carl?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Thank you. Item 9. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back just to the summer schedule. There
Yes.
was some reference about vacations. I'd like to, suggest, maybe we notify Meredith when we are going to be on vacation. If we know, that might be information needed for quorums.
Yes, please do.
Yeah,
Sounds
just
like a
send
good idea, huh,
Yeah,
Colleen?
Colleen and I a note. We only need 4 to have a quorum, but I will ask about the whole, if you have to be at every hearing to make a vote.
Okay, thank you.
So, thanks, Jim.
All right, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, we're done?
You have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Tom?
I'll vote yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep.
I vote yes. Well, thank you, everyone. And
Have a
see.
good night, everyone.